There are moments in history that never make it into books, moments that begin quietly in the heart of someone who was never meant to be a hero. This is the story of Ilara and Aaron, two souls who found each other when their worlds were falling apart. The desert winds moved like ghosts across a ruined land. Broken towers stood like bones of a civilization that once believed it would last forever. Aaron walked alone through that silence, his steps heavy, his heart heavier. War had taken everything from him. His family, his home, the part of him that once knew how to hope. He had become a shadow carrying sorrow instead of purpose. Then he heard her, a voice, soft, warm, impossible. A light formed in front of him, glowing like a star breathing. Slowly it shaped into her. Ilara. Not human, something higher, something gentle. Her presence didn't command fear. It summoned peace. Aaron asked her why she came to him of all people. A broken man with no dreams left. She looked at him as if she could see the part of him he had buried. Because hope still survives in you, she said, even if you cannot see it. He tried to turn away, but her voice held him still, not with force, but with understanding. She brought him to her world, a place made of shimmering gardens and rivers that flowed like memory itself. But beneath the beauty he saw pain. Her world was dying, the source of its life fading like a final flame. She did not ask him to fight. She did not ask him to lead. She asked him something far harder, to believe again. Days passed. Weeks. Slowly, Aaron learned to live without waiting for loss. He helped rebuild homes. He laughed with children. He listened to music sung beneath starlight, and Ilara watched him, smiling softly like someone witnessing spring after a long winter. He saved no kingdoms. He saved hearts, and she gave him back the ability to feel alive. But peace is always fragile. When the Hollow Legion returned, the sky burned. Cities fell. The world trembled. Ilara, protecting her people, was struck down. Aaron caught her as her light flickered weakly in his arms. The fear in his eyes was not fear of death, but fear of losing the one who helped him remember how to breathe. She whispered to him, barely conscious, "Promise me you won't let hope die." "Not again." He clutched her to him and nodded, voice breaking. "I promise." Her light faded, and the world dimmed with her. Aaron stood alone in the silence, but something inside him had changed. He did not collapse this time. He walked with determination to the heart of her world, where the life core pulsed weakly, about to die. He placed his hands upon its burning surface. The pain was blinding, but he did not pull away. "Take everything," he whispered. "My strength, my years, my warmth. But bring her back. Let her world live. Let her live." The core flared like a newborn star. Its radiance roared through the sky. Aaron screamed, but he did not let go. He had learned how to hold on to hope again, and he would not lose it. When the light finally softened, the world began to breathe. Flowers of silver bloomed across mountains. Rivers glowed gold. The cities sang with life again, and Ilara opened her eyes. She saw him standing there, weak, trembling, exhausted, but alive. She stepped forward, tears shining like crystal. "You came back," she whispered. He smiled, tired but real. "I promised." She held him, and the world glowed brighter around them. He had given him hope when he was drowning in darkness, and he returned with a miracle no one believed possible. Not because he was chosen, not because he was powerful, but because love is the oldest magic the universe ever carried. The world breathed again. But healing is never instant. It is quiet, slow, like dawn that takes its time to climb over dark mountains. Aaron woke in a soft room of starlit glass. His hands trembled. The life he had given to the core had taken something from him. He felt the weight of years that were not yet lived, the ache of a heart that had burned too bright. But when he opened his eyes, she was there. Ilara sat beside him, watching with a gaze that was full of relief and grief at once. Her light glowed warm, no longer fading, no longer fragile, yet something in her expression shook softly, like someone who had been given back something they thought was lost forever. "You shouldn't have done it," she whispered. He smiled, though fatigue pulled at his body. "You asked me to believe again. I only followed where that belief led." Her hand touched his. It was warm, real. She didn't speak further. Some love is too deep to waste on explanations. Days passed. Aaron could no longer move with the strength he once had. His steps were slower, his breath slightly heavier. But the world around him had begun to bloom. Villages that once stood silent now sang in celebration. Children chased ribbons of glowing petals. Rivers sparkled with restored energy. Everywhere Aaron walked, people bowed, not because he was a hero, but because they recognized the quiet way he had chosen to save them. Yet, Aaron never saw himself as anything more than someone who simply refused to lose the one person who had understood him. But something far away had also awakened. Beyond the horizon of stars, in the silent dark, the Hollow Legion regrouped. Their defeat had not broken them. It had enraged them. Their leader, a figure of shifting shadow and flame, studied the restored world like a hunter watches prey that refuses to die. He spoke one sentence to his generals: "Hope has a source. Cut the source and hope falls with it." Their ships began to move. Meanwhile, Aaron and Alara walked beside a river of starlight. Flowers floated across the surface, each one glowing faintly with memory. Alara stopped, looking at the horizon as if she could hear something distant, like thunder from a storm not yet visible. "They're coming," she said softly. Aaron didn't flinch. "I know. You don't have to stand again," she replied, voice breaking. "You have already given more than anyone ever should." He shook his head slowly. "I didn't give my life to save just one moment of peace. I gave it to protect the future that comes after." Her eyes trembled. She wanted to stop him, hold him, keep him safe. But love is not chains. Love lets a heart walk where it must at night. The sky lit with fire. The Legion descended. But the world was different now. Not afraid, not broken, not silent. The people Aaron had touched, those he had rebuilt homes with, those he had laughed with, those who had once forgotten how to hope, stood beside him. Not soldiers, not warriors, just ordinary souls who had remembered their strength. They took to the skies. They took to the fields. They sang the song of rebirth not as a plea but as defiance. The Legion struck. But their power, forged in fear, faltered before the force of unity. Aaron faced the Legion's leader alone on a field where stardust fell like snow. He no longer carried weapons. He simply stood steady, unshaken. "You are only human." The shadow hissed. Aaron nodded. "Yes, and that is enough." The shadow struck, dark, power roaring like a storm meant to erase everything, and Aaron did not resist. He opened his heart, and the light within him, small, human, fragile, grew into something radiant enough to split the sky. It wasn't fire. It wasn't force. It was warmth. The warmth of every laugh he had shared. Every tear he had cried. Every memory Alara helped him reclaim. Light swept across the battlefield. And the Legion dissolved, not destroyed but undone. Their hate simply could not survive where love burned too brightly. When the light faded, Aaron fell. Alara was there before his body touched the ground. She held him close, her tears falling like stars breaking. "You saved us again," she whispered, voice shaking. His eyes opened slowly. Soft. Peaceful. "I didn't save the world," he breathed. "I just protected the part of it that I loved most." Her forehead rested against his, and the world, for the first time in centuries, was truly quiet, not from loss. Yes, and that is enough. The shadow struck. Dark power roaring like a storm meant to erase everything, and Aaron did not resist. He opened his heart, and the light within him, small, human, fragile, grew into something radiant enough to split the sky. It wasn't fire. It wasn't force. It was warmth. The warmth of every laugh he had shared. Every tear he had cried. Every memory Alara helped him reclaim. Light swept across the battlefield. And the Legion dissolved, not destroyed but undone. Their hate simply could not survive where love burned too brightly. When the light faded, Aaron fell. Alara was there before his body touched the ground. She held him close, her tears falling like stars breaking. "You saved us again," she whispered, voice shaking. His eyes opened slowly. Soft. Peaceful. "I didn't save the world," he breathed. "I just protected the part of it that I loved most." Her forehead rested against his, and the world, for the first time in centuries, was truly quiet. Not from loss. Those words became the foundation of a new era. Not strength, not conquest, not destiny, just choice. The people learned to build without fear, to farm without worrying about armies, to share without fearing loss, and yet, sometimes at night when the stars were too quiet, Ilara walked alone in the garden by the river, because peace does not erase love and love does not forget loss. It simply learns how to carry it. One evening, as twilight settled, she noticed a presence behind her. A young girl, small eyes bright with curiosity. She clutched a small pendant shaped like a tiny star, the same shape that Aaron once wore. "You miss him," the child said softly, not as a question, but as truth spoken without fear. Ilara smiled, slow and tender. "Every day, but not with sadness. With gratitude." The child sat beside her. "My mother says hope came from him." Ilara shook her head gently. "Hope came from all of us. He was simply the one who reminded us how to see it." The child leaned into her side, trusting, warm, real. Ilara rested a hand on her hair. Life continued. One night, on a hill above the glowing cities, the sky shimmered in a way it hadn't in years. The stars pulsed, soft and familiar. The same cadence Aaron once carried in his heartbeat. Ilara looked up, breath trembling. A whisper moved through the air. Not a voice, not sound. Something felt like a gentle hand resting over hers. She closed her eyes. "You're still here," she whispered into the quiet. The breeze moved as if answering. Warm, soft, alive. She smiled, not with longing, but with peace, because love had not left. It had simply become the sky itself, the rivers, the laughter of children, the warmth of hands held together, the courage to care. Aaron had not returned as a miracle of light. He had returned as the world he helped heal. And every time someone chose kindness when anger was easier, every time someone shared instead of guarded, every time someone believed when fear tried to silence them, he lived again. Ilara rose from the hill and walked back toward the shining city. Her steps were steady, her heart full, the world glowing with the memory of one human who refused to let hope die. And somewhere in the sky, a star pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. The story was not over, because stories like this do not end. They become the way the world learns to love. The world flourished for many generations. Seasons passed in gentle cycles. Festivals filled the skies with floating lanterns, and the river of starlight continued its endless journey. The memory of Aaron did not fade. It matured, like a story whispered carefully, respectfully, passed from heart to heart. But time, even in peace, is a patient sculptor. Children who never saw the war grew into adults who only knew safety. Their children grew as well, surrounded by comfort, protected by a world healed before they were born. And soon the memory of struggle became distant, something that felt unreal, something that belonged to history, not life. And that is when the world began to forget, not with malice, with ease. The songs of hope were still sung, but they became performance. The gardens of light still bloomed, but became places to admire, not protect. The river still carried memory, but fewer people sat by its edge to listen. Ilara saw this shift, slow but unmistakable. It wasn't danger. Not yet, but forgetting is where loss begins. One night under the violet dusk, she walked through the great academy where scholars taught the era of renewal. There, she overheard a young speaker telling students that the miracle of their world came from power, not sacrifice, from elven-like magic, not a single human heart. The speaker spoke Aaron's name lightly, like a decorative story detail. Ilara didn't interrupt. She simply turned away and walked outside into the quiet evening. She knew that love does not vanish. But memory can be stolen by comfort. She sat by the river again, but this time the banks were empty. No children laughed there. No elders told stories. Just silence and the faint glow of starlight flowing by. She reached into the water and let her fingers drift along its current, feeling how it remembered everything that touched it. And the water whispered back, not words, but a feeling of warmth. Familiar and steady, she whispered into the night, "They are forgetting you." The river glowed brighter for a moment, as if answering. The next morning, she made a decision. She began to travel again, but not to teach, not to lead, not to tell people who he was. She listened. She sat with those hurt by loneliness. She walked with those who feared their future. She comforted those who felt invisible even in peace. And slowly, hope was taught not by story, but by presence, just as he had done. Her own light remained gentle, but something new began to grow around her presence, something that had not been there before. People began to feel calm near her. Their fear softened. Their trust returned. She did not preach the past. She helped the present heal itself. But word spreads. Even whispers can travel far. On the far edge of the world, in villages where the sky touched the mountains, people began to speak of the star caller, a figure who restored courage simply by sharing silence. Travelers repeated the stories. Then merchants. Then scholars died. Soon students began to leave their comfortable plazas and sit by the river again. Not to perform tradition, but to listen, to remember, to feel, and quietly, beautifully, the world remembered Aaron again. Not as a legend, but as a mirror, a proof of what a single heart can become. One evening, as the sky shimmered with soft auroras, Ilara stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. The breeze was cool, carrying the scent of moon-blooming flowers, and then she felt it. Not light, not sound, not vision, presence, a warmth, familiar and steady, standing just behind her. Not a body, not a ghost. Something deeper. She didn't turn. She didn't need to. "You never left," she whispered. The air shimmered. Soft, gentle, like a heartbeat brushing the edge of reality. She closed her eyes, let a small smile form, and placed her hand over her heart. "Then let us keep going," she said softly. "There is still more to build, more to heal, more to love." The wind answered, warm and unwavering, and together, one seen, one unseen, they walked back into the world that still needed them. Because love does not end when a story ends. Love becomes the story the world continues to write. Years passed, like gentle waves, quiet and steady. Ilara continued her travels across the peaceful world. Wherever she walked, harmony followed. Not because she commanded it, but because her presence reminded people of something they had forgotten within themselves. Hope. One day, in a quiet village surrounded by silver-leafed trees, she came across a small child sitting alone beside a well. The village was warm, lively, full of music, yet the child sat apart, staring up at the sky as though searching for something far beyond it. Ilara approached slowly and sat beside him without speaking. They remained silent for a long moment. Finally, the boy whispered, "I feel someone calling me, but I don't know who." His voice trembled, not with fear, but with longing. Ilara did not look surprised. She simply smiled, because she recognized this feeling. "What does the call feel like?" she asked softly. The child placed a small hand over his chest, right where the heart beat. Warm. Like, "I'm not alone, even when I am." Ilara closed her eyes, and that same warmth she had known for years stirred gently in the air. Not loud, not dramatic, just present. Familiar, like starlight that remembers your name. "What is your name?" she asked. "Lyran," he said. The name felt like a melody, not learned, but remembered. Lyran looked no different from any child. Soft dark hair, bright curious eyes, gentle hands. But when he smiled, Ilara felt the world pause just for a moment. That smile carried a quiet strength, a courage that didn't need to be taught. Aaron's echo, not reincarnation, not return, but continuation. The world had taken Aaron's love and grown something new. Time moved. Seasons passed. Lyran grew, and as he grew, something else awakened. He did not possess magic. He did not summon light. He did not shape the elements, but when he listened to people, truly listened, something inside them changed. Soldiers put down their anger. Lonely hearts felt seen. Those ashamed of their scars found the courage to stand again. His gift was the same gift Aaron had carried. the ability to make others believe in their own goodness. One afternoon, while the sun filtered through leaves made of silver and gold, Lyran approached Ilara with quiet determination. "Tell me the story," he said, "the one everyone whispers about. Not as a legend, as the truth." Ilara knew the time had come, so, beneath the glowing trees, she told him everything. Not with dramatic words or heroic images, just honesty. She told him about the desperate world, about the sorrow that once covered the sky, about a human who carried nothing but hope, about love that changed the shape of reality itself, about sacrifice that did not break, but healed. Lyran listened, eyes steady, heart open. When she finished, he did not ask the question most children ask. He did not say, was he a hero? He did not say, was he powerful? He did not say, did he win? He asked, did he ever regret loving the world even when it hurt him? Ilara felt tears gather in her eyes, not of sadness but of awe. No, she whispered. He never regretted love. Not once, Lyran nodded slowly, as if he already knew. As long as I live, he said, voice clear and young and unshakably certain, I will make sure the world never forgets him again. Not through stories, not through monuments, but through how we treat each other. And in that moment, Ilara felt it, not memory, not echo. The continuation of a promise made long ago. The breeze warmed. The river glowed in the distance, and somewhere unseen, love smiled. Ilara placed her hand gently on Lyran's shoulder. Then we continue, she said. And together, the healer and the child of echoes began to walk toward a future where hope was not something told, but lived. Time flowed like silver rivers, gentle and relentless. Lyran had grown, strong, compassionate, full of quiet courage. But even in peace, shadows lingered, not of war, not of enemies, shadows of doubt, fear, and complacency. The world had begun to question hope again. People had grown comfortable. They no longer remembered the weight of sacrifice, the cost of love, the fragility of life. Lyran felt it in the streets, in conversations, in the emptiness that lingered beneath laughter. One evening he stood atop the highest hill overlooking the luminous city. The river of starlight stretched endlessly, reflecting the skies. His heart ached, not with despair but with resolve. Ilara joined him silently, her presence warm and steady. They are losing faith, she said softly. Lyran nodded. Not entirely, but enough to let darkness creep back in. She placed a hand on his shoulder. What will you do? He looked at the horizon where stars met mountains. What Aaron taught me. His voice was steady. I will lead. Not with power, not with commands, but with belief. I will remind them how to hope. The next morning, Lyran traveled across the cities and villages. He did not stand on stages or speak to crowds. He sat with people in markets, walked among children in schools, helped farmers repair broken homes, listened, understood, loved. Slowly, the warmth of his heart spread, not through force, not through words, but through presence. People began to remember. They felt courage returning. They spoke gently to their neighbors, smiled more readily, helped without being asked. The echo of Aaron's hope returned, yet the final test came unexpectedly. A massive storm approached from beyond the mountains, unnatural, fierce, carrying winds and rains that threatened to destroy the villages. It was not just a storm. It was fear made visible. Panic spread as people realized the danger was real and immediate. Lyran did not falter. He ran to the center of the village and began to calm them, not with shouts but by showing no fear himself. He guided them to shelters, organized teams to secure homes, encouraged children and elders to stay safe, and moved tirelessly to protect every life. All night he worked, drenched, exhausted, yet unwavering. He remembered the lessons Aaron had shown. Hope is not passive. Hope is action, love, courage, together. By dawn, the storm had passed. Trees were down, roofs damaged, but every life was safe. The villagers looked around, weary, wet, but alive. And in their eyes, something had changed. They saw not a boy, not even a hero. They saw a reflection of themselves, the power of ordinary people choosing to care. Lyran stood among them, soaked, tired, but smiling. He looked at the rising sun and felt the pulse of the world, the same pulse that Aaron had once carried, and which Ilara still held in her heart. Alara approached him. You've done it. You've reminded them. Lyran shook his head. I didn't do it alone. Hope was never mine. It's ours, she smiled softly. Then the world will always remember. Not just the miracle, but the way we live it every day. The people of the village came forward, surrounding them. They held hands, lifted faces to the light, sang songs that were not just melodies but memories, promises, and courage. The echo of Aaron lived in every note. Every laugh, every touch, and Lyran, standing there, felt the warmth of 1,000 hearts beating in unison. He realized then what Aaron had known all along. Hope cannot be stolen. Love cannot be broken. The heart that chooses to care is unstoppable. The camera of imagination pulls back. Over rivers, mountains, cities aglow with life, stars shimmering in the sky above. Alara and Lyran walk side by side, hands brushing, eyes lifted toward the infinite horizon. The world is not perfect. It never will be. But it is alive. And it is beautiful. And it remembers. Because one human once believed and another carried that belief forward. And now, the echo will live forever. The stars pulse softly, like a heartbeat. The wind carries whispers of laughter and love. Life continues not as a story to be told, but as a living testament. And in that quiet, magnificent truth, the story ends.